Admiral Vex stood tall on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Eternal Glory. His six-fingered hands were clasped behind his back as he watched the small Earth shuttle approach. The puny craft looked like a child's toy next to the massive Imperial vessel. Vex's lips curled into what his species considered a smile, but what most other races saw as a threatening display of sharp teeth. "Prepare to receive the human representatives," he ordered. "Remember, they are primitives. Treat them as you would treat simple children." The crew nodded in understanding. The Empire had done this thousands of times before. A new species would be discovered, classified, and absorbed into the vast galactic network. The humans were labeled as a Class 3 pre-FTL civilization, barely worth the Empire's notice except for their unusual biology and rich planet. Captain Dorn approached and handed Vex a data tablet. "The final report on the humans, sir. They are technologically equivalent to our Empire approximately 500 years ago. They have only recently sent primitive explorers to their own moon and a few simple machines to nearby planets." Vex scrolled through the images of Earth's pitiful space stations and satellites. "Hardly impressive," he muttered. "What about their weapons?" "Nuclear fission. Basic orbital defense systems. Nothing that could harm an Imperial scout ship, let alone a proper warship," Dorn replied. "Good. Then this should be quick." The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. Vex and his delegation made their way to the grand reception hall. The room was designed to impress new species. Soaring ceilings covered in brilliant light panels, walls displaying shifting images of the 1,000 worlds under Imperial control, and guards in gleaming armor standing at attention. The airlock doors slid open, and the human delegation stepped through. Vex was surprised to see only 3 of them: a stout man with gray hair, a tall woman with dark skin, and a younger man who seemed to be analyzing everything with keen eyes. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Glory," Vex announced, his translator converting his high-pitched clicks into human English. "I am Admiral Vex of the Imperial Galactic Navy, personal representative of Emperor Duran the Magnificent, ruler of the 1,000 worlds." The gray-haired man stepped forward. "Thank you for your welcome, Admiral. I am Ambassador Jack from Earth, representing the United Nations of our world. This is Defense Minister Rita and our science advisor, Dr. Ben." Vex gestured toward the ornate dining table prepared for the occasion. "Please, join us for the ceremonial feast. It is customary to share food before discussing integration terms." The humans exchanged glances but followed without comment. As they sat, servers brought out dishes from across the galaxy, carefully selected to be compatible with human biology. "Tell me, Ambassador," Vex said, pouring a bright blue liquid into crystal glasses, "how does it feel to know that your people will soon join the greatest civilization ever known?" Jack sipped the drink cautiously before answering. "We're certainly interested in learning more about what membership in your empire would mean for Earth." Vex waved his hand dismissively. "The benefits are numerous: Imperial technology, medicine, protection from hostile powers. Your people will advance centuries in mere decades." "And the costs?" asked Minister Rita, her voice firm. "Resources, of course," Vex replied. "All member worlds contribute to the greater good of the Empire. Some raw materials, labor for Imperial projects, soldiers for the Imperial forces." Dr. Ben spoke for the first time. "What percentage of Earth's resources would be required?" Vex signaled to Captain Dorn, who placed a document tablet before the humans. "The standard terms are outlined here. For a world of Earth's size and population, approximately 60% of all planetary resources would be directed to Imperial needs." Jack's face remained calm, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped his glass. "And if we were to decline this generous offer?" The room went silent. The Imperial officers looked at each other in confusion. No species had ever declined integration. Vex recovered quickly. "Decline? That's unusual. But of course, the Empire respects the development process of all civilizations. If you feel you need time to prepare your people, we can certainly arrange a grace period." "How long would such a period be?" Jack asked. 1 standard galactic year should be sufficient, Vex said with false generosity. We will return in 12 of your Earth months for your final answer. As the meal continued, Vex noticed Dr. Ben quietly studying the ship's visible technology. He made a mental note to restrict the humans' access during their tour. When the dinner ended, Vex escorted the humans back to their shuttle. We look forward to welcoming Earth into the Empire soon, he said as they prepared to depart. Ambassador Jack smiled politely. We thank you for your patience, Admiral. Earth will have an answer when you return. Once the human shuttle had departed, Vex turned to his officers. Establish a surveillance outpost in this system. I want to know everything the humans do in the coming months. Do you think they might resist? Captain Dorn asked. Vex laughed. With what? Their primitive rockets and basic computers. At best, they might build a few rudimentary defense satellites before our return. Nothing that would concern the Empire. Later that evening, Vex reported to Emperor Duran via secure communication. The humans will need time to accept their place, Your Magnificence. But they pose no threat. Their technology is centuries behind ours. The Emperor's hologram nodded. Keep watching them, Admiral. I sense something different about these humans. Different how, Your Magnificence? Just a feeling. Something in their ambassador's eyes. Not fear, not awe, but calculation. Back on Earth, Ambassador Jack called an emergency session of the United Nations. Leaders from every nation gathered to hear his report. We have 1 year, he told them, his voice echoing through the silent chamber. 1 year to show them that humans aren't what they think we are. Defense Minister Rita stepped forward. They expect us to build satellites and basic defenses. We need to show them something they can't imagine. Dr. Ben projected images he had secretly captured aboard the Imperial vessel. I've analyzed their technology. It's advanced, but not incomprehensible. Their fatal mistake was letting me see their engine room. For the first time since the meeting began, Jack smiled. Then we have work to do. Project Thunderbolt begins now. As the Earth's leaders filed out, determined plans already forming, Ambassador Jack looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, Imperial eyes were watching. Let them watch, he thought. Let them see exactly what they expected to see, until it was time to show them what humanity was truly capable of. 6 months had passed since the Imperial visit. Admiral Vex sat in his private quarters aboard the surveillance station orbiting Jupiter. He stared at the report in his hands, reading it for the 3rd time. This cannot be right, he muttered. He tapped a button on his desk. Captain Dorn, join me immediately. Moments later, Dorn entered the room and saluted. You called for me, Admiral. Vex tossed the data tablet across the desk. Explain these readings. Dorn reviewed the information and frowned. We've triple-checked, sir. The humans have somehow united their entire planet. Nations that were enemies for centuries are now working together. Their industrial output has increased by 400% in just 6 months. Impossible, Vex snapped. No species changes their behavior so dramatically in such a short time. See for yourself, sir. Dorn activated the room's main screen, showing live footage from Earth orbit. Vex's eyes widened. Where before there had been only a handful of primitive space stations, now there were massive construction platforms. Thousands of workers in spacesuits moved materials. Skeletal frameworks of unknown structures took shape. What are they building? Vex demanded. We're not certain, Dorn admitted, but based on the size and configuration, they appear to be shipyards. Vex pounded his fist on the desk. How? Their industrial capacity was nowhere near this level. They shouldn't even have the materials to attempt such construction. It seems they've developed new mining techniques. They've established operations on their moon and on Mars. They're extracting resources at an incredible rate. Vex stood and paced the room. I need to report this to High Command. And get me Dr. Mira. I want the Empire's best xenobiologist to explain how these primitives are doing this. 2 days later, Dr. Mira arrived at the surveillance station. She was one of the few female members of Vex's species to reach such a high position in Imperial science. Her skin was a lighter shade of blue than most, and her eyes held a sharp intelligence that made even Vex uncomfortable. "Doctor," Vex greeted her coldly. "I assume you've reviewed the data we sent." "I have," she said, setting up her own equipment. "And I believe we may have made a serious error in our assessment of humans." She displayed a complex biological scan. "This is a human cellular structure. Note the density and resilience. Humans evolved on what we would consider a death world. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, and atmospheric toxins that would kill most species in our empire." Vex waved dismissively. Yes, they're physically tough. But that doesn't explain their sudden technological leap. Doesn't it? Mira challenged. "I've been studying their historical records. Humans make extraordinary technological advances when united by common threats. Their greatest scientific achievements came during periods of conflict or competition." She showed a timeline of human history: World War I, atomic energy, radar, computers; the Cold War, space travel, advanced telecommunications. Each time they felt threatened, they innovated at rates that defy normal development curves. "And now they see us as a threat," Vex said slowly. "Precisely. We arrived, demanded 60% of their resources, and gave them a year to prepare for what amounts to planetary slavery." Mira looked directly at Vex. "We may have accidentally triggered their most powerful evolutionary response." Vex turned back to the screen showing Earth's shipyards. "What exactly are they building out there?" "I don't know," Mira admitted. "But given their rate of progress, we'll find out long before our year is up." Vex made his decision. "Prepare a secure transmission to Emperor Duran. Priority 1. Hours later, Vex knelt before the Emperor's hologram. "Your Magnificence, I bring troubling news from Earth." The Emperor's 7-foot frame seemed to fill the room even as a projection. "Speak, Admiral." Vex reported everything: the unified human response, the massive construction projects, Dr. Mira's analysis. When he finished, a heavy silence filled the room. "This changes things," Emperor Duran said finally. "If they're building warships, they cannot possibly match our technology," Vex assured him. "Even with their accelerated development, they're centuries behind us." "Perhaps," the Emperor said, "but I dislike surprises, Admiral. We cannot allow a potentially hostile species to develop unchecked." "What are your orders, Your Magnificence?" "Prepare a subjugation force. We will not wait the full year. In 3 months, you will lead our fleet to Earth and end this potential threat before it fully develops." "As you command, Your Magnificence." As the Emperor's hologram faded, Vex felt a mixture of relief and concern. He would have the chance to crush these upstart humans before they became a real problem. Yet something about their rapid advancement troubled him deeply. Meanwhile, on Earth's moon, Ambassador Jack and Defense Minister Rita stood in a sealed observation dome, watching teams of workers constructing something massive on the lunar surface. "Will 3 ships be enough?" Rita asked, her breath fogging the glass. Jack nodded. "Dr. Ben says we only need 1 to make our point. The other 2 are backup. And if they attack before we're ready." "The observatory in Mars orbit has detected increased activity at their Jupiter outpost," Jack said. "Ben thinks they're getting nervous about what they're seeing." Rita smiled grimly. "Good. Let them worry." A technician approached and saluted. "Ambassador, Minister, Dr. Ben requests your presence in the testing chamber. They're ready for the engine test." They followed the technician through pressurized corridors until they reached a heavily shielded room. Through thick windows, they could see a device about the size of a car, glowing with a strange blue light. Dr. Ben looked up from his control panel, his face illuminated by dozens of screens. "Perfect timing," he said. "We're ready to test the inertial dampener." "Will it work?" Jack asked. "Based on what I saw in their engine room." "Yes. Their technology follows the same basic principles as ours. They've just had thousands of years to refine it. Ben grinned, but they've never seen anyone make the conceptual leap we're about to make. He pressed a sequence of buttons, and the device's glow intensified. On one screen, numbers climbed rapidly. 100 G-forces, Ben announced. 200, 300. Inside the chamber, a small object. An apple floated completely undisturbed, despite forces that should have crushed it instantly. "It's working," Rita whispered. Jack placed his hand on the window. "How soon until it's ready for human pilots?" 1 month, Ben said confidently. "Maybe less." Jack nodded. "Good, because I think our visitors might be planning to return early." As they spoke, a small probe launched from Earth's lunar base, heading toward the outer planets. Its mission: to give humanity early warning of the Empire's movements. The race against time had begun. The Imperial battle fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 warships, 50 troop carriers, and the flagship Eternal Glory formed a massive armada that stretched for miles across the darkness of space. At the center of it all stood Admiral Vex, his uniform adorned with new medals awarded in advance for his expected victory. "Status report," Vex commanded, looking out at the distant yellow star that was Earth's sun. "All ships present and accounted for." "Admiral," Captain Dorn replied. "No sign of human defenses at the system's edge." Vex nodded. Despite the humans' surprising industrial efforts, he had expected this. No primitive species could detect ships arriving in hyperspace, let alone defend against them. "Proceed to Earth orbit. Standard formation," he ordered. The fleet moved forward, accelerating to half-light speed. As they passed Jupiter, Vex noticed their surveillance station was gone. "What happened to our outpost?" he demanded. A communications officer checked the sensors. "Unknown, Admiral. It appears to have been removed." Vex felt the first twinge of concern. "Scans of Earth's orbital defenses." "Still analyzing, sir," the officer replied. "We detect multiple satellites and small stations, but nothing that appears to be a major defensive platform." Dr. Mira, who had joined the invasion fleet at the Emperor's insistence, studied her own console. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from Earth's moon." "Weapons? I don't believe so. The pattern doesn't match any known weapon system." As the fleet approached Mars orbit, alarms suddenly blared across the command deck. "Movement detected," shouted the tactical officer. "Unknown vessel emerging from behind Earth's moon." On the main screen, a small craft appeared. It was sleek and silver, about the size of an Imperial scout ship. Its design was unlike anything Vex had seen before. Smooth curves instead of the angular designs favored by the Empire. "Is that their defense?" Vex asked incredulously. "One tiny ship." Dr. Mira leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "Admiral, that ship is accelerating. Current velocity is... This can't be right." "What is it?" "It's moving at 1/4 light speed and still accelerating. That's 3 times faster than our fastest interceptors." Vex stared at the screen in disbelief. No ship that small can move that fast, and no organic species could survive such acceleration. The human vessel continued to accelerate, covering the distance between the Moon and Mars in minutes. Then it did something impossible. It changed direction at full speed, banking in a tight curve that should have torn any ship apart and killed any crew instantly. "How are they doing that?" Dorn whispered. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the human vessel is hailing us." Vex hesitated, then nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and a human face appeared. It was a man in his 40s wearing a simple blue uniform with a small Earth emblem. "Imperial Fleet, this is Commander Tom of the HMS Defiance. You arrive earlier than agreed. Earth's answer to your proposal remains pending for another 3 months." Vex stood tall, trying to hide his shock. "This is Admiral Vex of the Imperial Galactic Navy. Your primitive defenses cannot hope to stand against the might of the Empire. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy." Commander Tom smiled, looking completely unaffected by forces that should have crushed him into paste. "We have no interest in fighting you, Admiral. This vessel carries no weapons. We simply wish to show you what humans are capable of when motivated." As if to emphasize this point, the Defiance suddenly accelerated again, reaching half-light speed. It circled the entire Imperial fleet in minutes, moving so fast that the tracking systems could barely keep up. "Impossible," Vex muttered, watching the trajectory plot with growing horror. "Lock weapons on that vessel." "Sir," the tactical officer replied, "we can't get a weapons lock. It's moving too fast and unpredictably." The Defiance completed its circuit of the fleet and then stopped, hovering just 5 miles from the Eternal Glory, close enough that they could see it clearly through the viewport. The maneuver should have been physically impossible. No ship could decelerate from half-light speed to a dead stop in seconds. "Admiral," Dr. Mira said quietly, "I believe they've somehow solved the inertia problem. They've developed technology that cancels out the effects of acceleration on both their ship and their bodies. That's centuries beyond what they should be capable of." Vex hissed. The human commander spoke again. "Admiral Vex, we understand you came here expecting an easy victory. Instead, I invite you to return to Earth with me, where Ambassador Jack awaits to discuss more appropriate terms for our relationship with your empire." Vex gripped the edge of his command console, his claws digging into the metal. Pride demanded he order the fleet to attack. But logic told him something else. If the humans could build one ship with such technology in just 6 months, what else might they have developed? "Very well," he said finally. "I will meet with your ambassador. Captain Dorn will accompany me. The fleet will remain here." As Vex and Dorn boarded a shuttle to follow the Defiance back to Earth, the Admiral couldn't shake a growing sense of dread. The Emperor had sent him to crush a primitive species. Instead, he was about to negotiate with a civilization that had just demonstrated technology the Empire hadn't even theorized was possible. Back on Earth, in a hidden underground facility, Ambassador Jack received news of the encounter. The Defiance performed perfectly. Defense Minister Rita reported. "They're bringing Admiral Vex here for talks." Jack nodded, looking at the massive screens displaying the Imperial fleet. "And what about our other preparations?" Dr. Ben smiled, his face illuminated by the glow of dozens of monitors. "Project Thunderbolt is ready. The prototypes are complete. Let's hope we don't need them," Jack said. "But if the Empire forces our hand..." He left the sentence unfinished as he turned to greet the approaching Imperial delegation. The next few hours would determine whether humanity extended a hand in friendship or showed the Empire exactly what happened when humans were truly threatened. Admiral Vex and Captain Dorn followed Commander Tom through the gleaming corridors of Earth's new space station. Unlike the crude structures they had expected, this facility featured technology that rivaled Imperial standards. The walls hummed with energy, and gravity remained constant throughout their tour despite the station's rotation. "This is unexpected," Vex admitted grudgingly. 6 months ago, you had nothing like this." Commander Tom nodded. Amazing what humans can do when properly motivated. They entered a large meeting room where Ambassador Jack waited with Defense Minister Rita and Dr. Ben. Large windows overlooked Earth, its blue oceans and green continents shining in the sunlight. "Admiral Vex," Jack greeted him. "Welcome back to Earth orbit. I understand you've come ahead of schedule." Vex straightened his uniform. "By order of Emperor Duran, your sudden industrial expansion raised concerns." "Concerns?" Rita asked with a raised eyebrow. "Or fears?" Before Vex could respond, Dr. Ben spoke up. "I believe the Admiral would like to understand how we achieved so much so quickly. Perhaps we should begin there." Vex nodded stiffly. "Your ship, the Defiance, its capability should be impossible for your level of technology." Ben smiled and activated a holographic display in the center of the table. A detailed diagram of the Defiance appeared, showing its internal systems. "When you first visited us, Admiral, you made a critical mistake," Ben explained. You let me see your engine room. A brief glimpse, Vex countered. Nothing more. For most species, perhaps that would be insufficient, Jack said. But humans have a particular talent for making cognitive leaps based on limited information. Ben manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the ship's drive system. Your engines use a quantum field manipulation technique to reduce the effects of inertia by about 60%. That's why your ships can accelerate faster than ours could before. But you're still limited by the remaining inertial forces. Vex's eyes narrowed. How could you possibly determine that from a brief look? Because we've been theorizing about similar technology for decades, Ben replied. We just never had the means to build it. When I saw your engines, I recognized what you were trying to do. And more importantly, I realized why you were only partially succeeding. The hologram change, showing a more complex system. Your approach treats inertia as a fundamental force that can only be reduced. We took a different approach. We don't reduce inertia. We redirect it into subspace. Impossible, Dorn whispered. The energy requirements alone would be enormous, Ben agreed, which is why we had to develop new power sources too. On another screen, satellite images appeared showing massive solar collection arrays orbiting Mercury, capturing energy directly from the sun at previously impossible efficiency. The Imperial High Command meeting was called to session as soon as Vex's preliminary report reached the Emperor. Senior military officers, scientists, and Imperial advisors gathered in the Grand Hall of the palace. Admiral Vex's hologram stood in the center, finishing his briefing. And based on our observations, the humans have made technological advances that should have taken them centuries to achieve. Emperor Duran leaned forward on his throne. How is this possible, Admiral? Were our initial assessments so wrong? Dr. Mira stepped forward. Your Magnificence, I believe my analysis offers some explanation. Human psychology differs fundamentally from other species we've encountered. She displayed brain scans of various species, including humans. Most intelligent species follow predictable development patterns. They advance steadily but cautiously. Humans are different. They experience explosive growth when challenged. Like a virus, one general muttered. More like an immune response, Mira corrected. Most concerning is what these developments suggest about human potential. They didn't build defensive platforms or a fleet of warships. They built a single unarmed vessel whose sole purpose was to demonstrate capability. The Emperor's chief science advisor added, this suggests they value efficiency and psychological impact over brute force, a concerning sign of sophisticated strategic thinking. Vex's hologram nodded. More concerning is what we've learned about their history. Humans have fought countless wars among themselves, developing military tactics and strategy over thousands of years. Yet they present themselves as peaceful, the Emperor noted. Yes, Vex replied. Ambassador Jack has proposed a new arrangement, a trade agreement rather than absorption into the Empire. He claims humans have no interest in conquest, only in fair partnership. And you believe this? Asked the Emperor. Vex hesitated. I believe they could have attacked our fleet but chose not to. The Defiance demonstrated technology that could easily be weaponized. One of the generals spoke up. But one ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against our armada. That is what troubles me most, Vex replied. Our intelligence has intercepted communications about something they call Project Thunderbolt. We don't know what it is, but energy readings from their main research facility are unprecedented. The Emperor made his decision. Return to Earth, Admiral. Tell them we will consider their proposal. In the meantime, triple the surveillance. I want to know what this Project Thunderbolt is before they choose to reveal it. Back on Earth, in a massive underwater facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Ambassador Jack and his team received news of the Imperial fleet's withdrawal to a holding position near Jupiter. They're buying time, Rita said, trying to figure out what else we might have. Jack nodded. And what do we have? Dr. Ben led them through a heavy security door into a vast chamber. Dozens of ships hung suspended in massive construction bays, each identical to the Defiance but smaller. 50 unmanned drones, Ben explained, each capable of the same maneuvers as the Defiance, but controlled remotely by our AI systems. And the weapons? Jack asked. Ben pointed to another section where technicians worked on sleek, silver devices. Based on fragments of technology we found in ancient ruins beneath the Antarctic ice. The same visitors who left warnings about empires like this one left us blueprints. We just never had the power sources to build them until now. Rita studied the weapons with a grim expression. Will they work? In theory, Ben admitted. We haven't tested them at full power. The energy discharge would be detectable across the solar system. Jack sighed heavily. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The Admiral seemed shaken by what he saw. Perhaps there's still a chance for peaceful resolution. And if there isn't? Rita asked. Jack looked across the vast chamber at Earth's secret fleet. Then humanity will need to send a message that will echo across the galaxy. We will not be conquered. As they spoke, hidden sensors placed throughout the solar system monitored the Imperial fleet. Deep in the heart of Earth's new defense network, a countdown clock ticked steadily forward, measuring the time until humanity would either find a new friend among the stars or reveal just how dangerous a primitive species could be when fighting for its survival. The Imperial deadline arrived. 3 months had passed since Admiral Vex's first encounter with the Defiance. During that time, messages had gone back and forth between Earth and the Empire, but no agreement had been reached. Emperor Duran had refused to accept Earth as an equal partner, insisting on at least partial control of human resources. Now, the Empire deployed its most formidable battle group. 500 warships, 100 planet crackers, and countless troop carriers, a force that had conquered entire galactic sectors without a single defeat. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of the new Imperial flagship, the Dominion. The massive vessel dwarfed the old Eternal Glory and carried weapons that could reduce planets to ash. Vex had been reinstated to full command after his initial failure, but everyone knew this was his last chance. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain Dorn announced. The Emperor himself has joined us aboard the royal vessel Imperial Will. Vex nodded grimly. The Emperor rarely left the Imperial capital, but he had decided to witness humanity's submission personally. Begin approach to Earth. Full battle formation. As the fleet moved toward the blue planet, scanners remained alert for any sign of the Defiance or other human vessels. Strangely, Earth's orbit appeared empty of military vessels. Only civilian stations and satellites were detected. This is unusual, Dr. Mira said, studying her console. Based on their previous behavior, I expected a significant defensive presence. Perhaps they've realized resistance is futile, Vex suggested, though he didn't believe it himself. The fleet entered Earth orbit without incident. Vex felt uneasy. This was too easy. He ordered continuous scans of the planet's surface and the surrounding space. Sir, the sensor officer suddenly called out. Something is emerging from Earth's atmosphere. All eyes turned to the main viewer. A massive object was rising from the Pacific Ocean, water cascading off its enormous hull as it climbed into the sky. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. A ship so large it made the Dominion look like a toy. There's no way that's a human warship, Vex whispered, his voice barely audible even to himself. The human vessel dwarfed the Imperial flagship. Its design defied Imperial engineering principles, asymmetrical, with impossible angles and vast sections that seemed to shimmer in and out of visibility. Size estimate, Vex demanded, finding his voice. It's over 15 kilometers long, Admiral, the shocked officer replied. Mass readings are off the charts. How could they hide something that big? Dorn asked. It appears to have been submerged in their ocean, Dr. Mira replied. An effective concealment method we never considered. We're being hailed, reported the communications officer. The Emperor's voice came through the command channel. Accept the transmission. All ships. Ambassador Jack appeared on screens throughout the Imperial fleet. He now wore a formal military uniform with Earth's new emblem, a blue planet encircled by silver wings. Imperial forces, he began. We present the HSS Humanity's answer. We hope to avoid this moment, but your response to our peace proposals has clarified your intentions. The Emperor himself took control of communications from his royal vessel. Impressive construction, Ambassador. But size alone does not win battles. We agree, Jack responded calmly, which is why we've developed these. Suddenly, the Imperial sensors detected new signals. Thousands of smaller craft appeared around the human supervessel, emerging from what seemed to be empty space. Cloaking technology. Vex gasped. Impossible. We call them Thunderbolts, Jack explained as the small ships, each about the size of the Defiance, moved into formation. Drone ships controlled by our AI systems, each capable of the same maneuverability as the Defiance you witnessed earlier. The Emperor maintained his composure. A clever display, Ambassador. But what do you hope to accomplish? Even with these vessels, you cannot hope to defeat the might of the Empire. Jack's expression remained calm. Each Thunderbolt carries weaponry reverse-engineered from technology we found in the historical archives of a far older species who visited Earth long before your empire existed. At that moment, one of the Thunderbolts broke formation. It accelerated toward an uninhabited area of space and fired a single bright beam of energy. A hole seemed to tear in the fabric of space itself, a swirling vortex of blue light that quickly collapsed back in on itself. Alarms blared across the Imperial fleet as sensors went wild. What was that? The Emperor demanded. Dr. Mira checked her readings with trembling hands. It appears to be a dimensional displacement weapon. It briefly opened a rift to another reality. The Emperor visibly paled. The precursors. Yes, Jack confirmed. They left warnings about empires that consumed rather than cooperated. We didn't understand until we met yours. A tense silence fell across all communications. Finally, the Emperor spoke again. Perhaps we have been hasty in our assessment of humanity. We propose a new arrangement, Jack said. Not as subjects, but as equals. Humanity doesn't want war, Emperor. We want partnership. But we've prepared for either outcome. The Emperor looked to his advisors, then back to the screen. I will consider your proposal, Ambassador. A diplomatic team will contact you within one standard day to begin negotiations. As the transmission ended, Admiral Vex stared at the human ships with newfound respect and fear. Sir, he said to the Emperor's representative on the bridge, do you believe they would actually use such weapons? The question, Admiral, replied the grim-faced official, is why they haven't already. They clearly could have destroyed our fleet at any time. In the command center of the humanities answer, Ambassador Jack removed his formal hat and sat down heavily in his chair. Defense Minister Rita placed a hand on his shoulder. Do you think they'll honor the agreement? She asked. They don't have much choice, Dr. Ben replied, monitoring the Imperial fleet's communications. They're terrified of the Thunderbolts. Jack nodded. The truth is, we could never have used those weapons in actual combat. The test we conducted was at minimum power in a carefully controlled area. A full power shot might have torn the solar system apart. But they don't know that, Rita said with a smile. No, Jack agreed. All they know is that humanity isn't what they thought we were. News of the confrontation spread quickly throughout the galaxy. For the first time, in thousands of years, the Empire had been forced to negotiate as equals with the species they had intended to conquer. The story of humanity's rise sent shockwaves through every world and colony. And in distant sectors of space, other subjugated species began to whisper among themselves, looking toward Earth with newfound hope. The age of imperial dominance was ending, not with a galactic war as many had feared, but with the appearance of a single ship that made the mighty Empire ask, "There's no way that's a human warship, right?" But somehow it was.